Hey Tim, nice to meet you again.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you so much for taking a few minutes for this today. Before we talk about AI in the context of automotive design, would you mind just briefly introducing yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Tim. I'm a designer. So I spent for last 5 years at Arrival as a head of design, where we work on commercial vehicles. And I joined Arrival as a very first digital designer, and I ended up working on a vehicle experience, but also everything digital outside and inside our vehicles, which is delivery vans and buses.
Very, very interesting. Not many people have worked in automotive design. Would you mind just giving us a little bit of context to how, first of all, what is design in the context of automotive? I mean, everyone knows what vehicles look like, but what does it really mean in terms of designing vehicles, and then what are the different areas, how is it organized, etc.
Yeah. So first of all, I don't have experience working in a classic automotive company. And at Arrival, we wanted to change everything, and we said like if we just go the same way and apply the same technique and principle as everybody else, we will kind of have the same vehicles. And we wanted to change the whole industry. Even like we focus on commercial vehicles, for us it didn't kind of matter commercial or private vehicle. So the whole process have to be changed, and we brought a lot of digital experience to automotive design. So basically, we never did any like this kind of sculpturing or other stuff. We kind of bring everything to digital as fast as possible and use VR to understand if it's the right direction. And put also kind of digital in VR just because we thought like digital and physical should be one. And obviously, we discussed a lot about this approach. And what I know about classic automotive design, they usually have like people who work on exterior and interior. It's like they're separate, but also like they just keep like screen for digital designer and that can work after. And quite often, all the decision about digital design are already made, and nothing you can change after. The whole kind of design, exterior and interior already done. So in at Arrival, we did completely different stuff. We tried at least. So we work very closely with industrial designers, how we can work and build a seamless experience. It doesn't matter like physical or digital. And this is like a big difference. So on one hand, it basically like um, speed up the whole process just because we basically work and try so many things and challenge almost everything. On other hand, there is no process to build, and it quite often the process is very chaotic because nobody knows how to handle this kind of stuff. And we tried a lot, and it was a lot of fighting and confusion in terms of like how exactly we can approach this stuff and where the kind of the line and kind of was sending some stuff for production. But also we just discovered a lot of new things we can do in automotive design, and we also figured out like a lot of stuff already kind of it's called industry standard. Uh, uh, hasn't been challenged kind of for a long time. And right now, the technology we have right now we actually kind of will allow to go much, much, much faster in terms of development and design.
Really interesting. You kind of alluded to this, but maybe a little bit more sort of explicitly. What are some of the lessons learned from this period of doing something very different and sort of bringing digital into automotive design?
Um, First of all, like work on a experience together with industrial designers and people who work on a kind of on a driving experience. It's also like very separate. So we tried to do like separately our stuff and just figured out like it doesn't work well. And we tried to kind of to merge it, how we can work together and basically trying involve different designers in the same process. So sometimes it was, I don't know, it's not about digital at all for me, but I also really was really interesting to understand all the parts of industrial designers. For example, I don't know, sun shield, the kind of which kind of cover your eyes from sun, right? It's like it's not about digital at all in one hand, but other kind of, if we just add some sensors and we understand people like actually using this kind of sunshade, we can change a lot just because obviously if you just connect it to driving experience, so everything we know about how driver feels, what what exactly happening right now with them, will help us to make the whole thing really better. But also we figured out like a lot of design efforts right now is more about selling cars, like how it looks, how people would buy it, kind of like styling, rather than how we can make experience better. And again, I think like just because automotive industry, I would say, suffers for a long time from being very mechanical engineering companies rather than digital. So they don't have people who can just bring new stuff and say you actually can do like completely different for a long time. So, and everything about like, switches and I don't know, AC experience, just because it's really important how people feel inside. They still like in the same way, like in 60s, 1960s kind of period time. So you have to adjust it all the time, kind of to feel better. And it's probably fine for private vehicle, but for commercial vehicle is completely different just because people spend whole day in the vehicles. It's basically their office, especially if we talk about bus drivers, but any kind of commercial vehicles. So we can bring a lot of stuff which can make their life better. And bringing this kind of stuff to the experience, it's not about only kind of make people like better. It's enough reason to do it, but also kind of for commercial vehicles, for the companies who own this fleet, it's also a lot of benefit just because people we know like from statistic, from numbers. So the most accident happening in the second part of the day because people are tired and they basically don't have like enough attention compared to enough attention to the kind of to the road, but also getting darker and they're getting tired. And just like help them feel better and less tired, it also kind of prevent from accidents, but also speed up all the process, reduce amount of failure and mistakes during the kind of the workday. So the whole thing actually make their life easier, faster, and better. It gets huge benefit for the companies as well.
First of all, sort of a quick follow-up question to that, and then to drill deeper into one aspect you mentioned. What is your perspective on? So Tesla seems to be one of the disruptors in this space with like quite novel design. I mean, the Cybertruck comes to mind. Whether people like it or not, it's definitely different. And then also years before with the Model S, amongst other sort of one clean, larger screen in the middle of the vehicle. First of all, what are your sort of perspectives on that? And do you feel like this is the direction the industry is generally heading towards, whether for commercial or personal vehicles?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like even like in some details, what Tesla does is kind of not mine. The I'm not the biggest fan of how Tesla kind of approached the design, but what we call the rival, they basically don't do a car anymore. It's not a car. It's like in a kind of in a sense of people usually think about the car, right? So you're not a pilot of the car anymore. And think like I really like this idea. So it's more like a device. So a device which can help me go from point A to point B. If we think about like from this perspective, what Tesla does, it's absolutely it's great. Just because like if it's not driving, if not, I'm not anymore a driver, a pilot who needs kind of to go through the training in order to kind of to drive this very expensive but also very dangerous device, right? Just because we know how many people like getting in accidents just because of human mistakes, right? So from this perspective, yeah, this is absolutely the right way to go. So we have to remove people and human from driving, especially if we talk about like high-speed driving. Anyway, like in like low speed in a city, obviously, if I'm getting tired or I don't know any reason, getting emotional, right? So I can't drive properly. So we know it, and it's not about like getting digital. It basically remove as much as possible from human control in order to kind of just because we know computers can do much better in terms of even planning of the driving. So and yeah, absolutely, this is the right direction, and I think like we will all be having digital devices rather than cars, or I don't know, especially racing cars.
You mentioned that it's all about making the experience better for your customers, which seems simple enough, but how do you really know what your customers want and are willing to pay for? I guess historically, just from my sort of limited experience in this space, automotive companies have been very traditional with their customer clinics, bringing customers in, looking at prototypes and things like that. But it seems to be shifting a little bit, and also with all of our digital touch points, we seem to have different means to collect customer feedback and integrate this into our development life cycles much better. What are your perspectives on, I guess, recommendations to get and integrate customer feedback as it relates to design?
It's a great question. My background before arrival is digital, so especially fintech. I spent a couple of maybe just more than a couple of years in fintech. And basically, obviously, we spoke with a lot of customers to understand what is the best experience for the fintech products. And I learned from this. So you never go directly. You collect feedback, but you never go and implement a direct feedback what people kind of tell you. And we can have an example right now. This is like controversial topic. You can usually can see between physical buttons and digital experience, right? And people kind of asking, can you have back please physical buttons? It's because we have it's much better to control especially temperature kind of with the physical buttons. And from any research, we obviously will know physical buttons are much better. So you know where it is, you kind of have a simple understanding what button does, you can operate it without looking, and all the physical experience also let you know like what's going on. Obviously, physical buttons are better. So there is no doubt. But if we say about like the whole experience, so we can't change physical button. So once we place it here, we can change like position, we can change it behavior, we can change it like automation. So it's already built in. And from this perspective, like go putting everything in digital, it makes sense. And take this complaint, not like, okay, let's get back this button. So many company does like right now is doing it. They just get back to buttons. That people want to have control just because quite often they found themselves in not very comfortable environment. So it's too hot or maybe too cold. And instead of like solving a problem, like how can actually solve this kind of people would need a button. So, or maybe they can control it like completely different. They just get back like physical buttons. So, and this is like very different. We applied it again at arrival. So we collected a lot of feedback. I personally rolled like hours and days spent in the buses with the bus drivers, like recording over stuff, asking them about the experience. So I spent hours in depots, like watching what how buses operated, cleaners, fleet managers, service guys. So basically, everything is really important. We ask about like what they want to kind of what they think about how we can change it, but it never goes like directly. So we also kind of want to find the problem and how we can solve it the best way possible rather than, okay, people ask they want buttons, we are getting button back. So yeah, that's way. So obviously connecting to their drivers, connecting to their real people is super important, but you can't just follow and go with what they requested. It never works. So they basically think about solution. They already had an experience. We always a designer thinking about how we can make next thing and remove the problem, which is kind of lie usually about like the complaints, and that's way. And at Arrival also kind of it was one of the principle of our CEO, bring people who have different backgrounds, and many people never have experience working in the automotive industry like myself. We basically brought everything we know from different experience, how to do like a really great study with our customers, but also bringing to design table and let everybody think about it, how we can solve issue and how we can make it better.
No, I love that. Thank you so much for that. It's super interesting. And building on that, everyone is talking about AI at the moment. What are some of the sort of general AI use cases you see as it relates to particularly automotive design?
Yeah, AI obviously become like a new tool, and AI would be everywhere. So in the last year, I work in 3 different projects with AI, trying to implement it in existing in new product. And AI is super powerful. So we kind of is. I personally believe it's a new revolution. It's almost like the same point as iPhone kind of existed. It changed everything, and right now we already kind of can see evidence how AI changes content like creation from pictures, images, and copy, everything like right now with AI. So, and obviously in automotive industry, it changes everything. First of all, it speed up the whole industrial design process. So usually before it's like it took a long time to go and build very first drafts and kind of understand is it the right direction. Right now with AI, it happens in a weeks, not in a month, in like in a years. It's like in a weeks we have like our understanding direction. This is the right form, this is the right shape, is it the materials like feel good, how digital could be implemented or rest removed, and especially with the animation in VR, how we can from one image can create like the whole image. Of course, it's roughly. It's AI, fortunately, can't go deeply in details, but speed up in very initial stuff and come up with something or the shape, future shape of the product is incredibly fast. It just like from usually 5 years of a new model, which can use a lot of old stuff. You know, if you just look at a new model, it's just like it's a legacy, right? So we change like view, but half or maybe even more than half, it's just old model kind of a little bit updated. Right now, we can go much faster from almost everything. In digital design, obviously, it's always here, especially if we just implemented AI. I really kind of looking forward if I want to kind of put my hands on a kind of implementing AI into the driver experience, but also it will help kind of to remove human from driving, just because AI will get better and can handle much more.
There seem to be sort of 2 camps as it relates to AI in the context of automotive design. I've literally heard a chief designer at one of the incumbent OEMs say something along the lines of AI will never replace humans in our department because there's too much creativity and innovation involved. And then on the other side, especially from the technology companies, of course, some bias involved and conflicts of interest, but they would argue that AI can do loads of the also more innovative work. I was just wondering, first of all, do you see this as well as sort of a possible spectrum, and then where do you sit on it?
Is again, AI is just a tool. The same way as all CAD software kind of changed the whole way how we design stuff, right? And before CAD software, we basically have like huge rooms of people who kind of do these kind of sketches and drafts. Right now, we have like a couple of people who, with the laptops, who can do a lot of stuff, right? The same way, it will help us to speed up the processes, but it never replace people. It just kind of people who say it could be replaced, they don't know AI technology really. So because AI, they need kind of to proper work kind of human inputs all the time. Without it, it go on the surface all the time just because it's collected so many inputs. It can't go deeply into any topic. Whatever we take, it would be like very average and nobody would like it. And right now we see is we can talk about pictures and images, right? So we can immediately detect it's AI images. It is already kind of becomes a little bit corny, right? Just because it's just like very everybody uses it, right? And but whenever we talk about design, we always looking for unique stuff, like how we can do something which kind of never done before. In AI will never help us with that. It's kind of technology work on something already built, so it can't build something new. It's impossible for technology. But it can, whenever we just want to do something old already existed, AI it's a big help. So it just removes huge load from almost every aspect of what we do.
You alluded to some of the, I guess, possibilities in the design process. From my sort of naive outside perspective, there seems to be lots of potential, especially as it relates to personalization in the digital context. Do you see this as one of the, I guess, main value drivers in terms of using AI for design in the context of sort of personalized digital interfaces and other touch points?
Yeah. I think like if we just create much more versions of what we are working on right now and show to customers and let us kind of to test it. This is exactly it. But at Arrival, we also use a lot of software kind of to test digital, first of all, digital stuff. So, and we had a simulator connected to Unreal 5. But also we have software called Prototype. I really like it. It's like a digital prototyping tool, like very advanced. And we basically almost duplicated in this design tool, prototyping tool, the whole experience and connected to Unreal 5. And whenever we have an idea, we just go and immediately test it. And the kind of time slot from idea to like test would kind of take a week. Which is like for automotive industry, it's a speed of light, just we can immediately test it, we can drive it, and we can see it's actually awful. And this is, we really kind of love this experience, and we have like awful results. So we're not guessing anymore. We just like remove it just because it's bad, and we go to the next one. And this is what in digital we do, like it's just normal process. But in automotive, we just brought it to put this process kind of to try very, very quick and find the best solution ever. So within 1 year, in terms of driver experience, we come up with a completely new way of operating the whole vehicle, how it could be simplified as a whole. But without this kind of speed process, very quick process of prototype testing and try to simulate. So it wouldn't be possible. If we just bring AI to this one and basically can test it with AI, I don't know, it would be much faster, even more faster. And I can imagine what it can do with AI in terms of how personalized, but also create a unique experience for every driver. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Kind of leads me nicely to the next question around generative artificial intelligence. There's lots of kind of buzz around it at the minute and loads of potential, but currently not so much, I guess, scaling of proof of concepts in the context of design, whether traditional design of physical components of the vehicle, or the vehicle as a whole, or in the digital sphere? Where do you see the most value as relates to Gen AI use cases in the automotive design context?
Again, I think like in almost in every step, like how we can convert draft to the CAD model, right? Kind of with AI, which can kind of help you. And I've seen a lot of really great products on the market, which can try to do it, and it kind of works, but not exactly. And it just started. We know, like, give them like a couple of more years, and technology will grow. So we will kind of draft and convert it to CAD, and obviously we have to kind of adjust it anyways. But the whole process in a unit arrival, it took like, I don't know, a couple of weeks, kind of just kind of they had idea and the first draft in the CAD, but also to test, right? So how we can understand if this exactly physical part will work good or not. And this is completely new level, and AI will help us hugely in terms of like understanding how we can how efficiency of every part on kind of even experience. I don't really even know how it can how it could be, but I'm really curious. So yeah, same. I think like whenever kind of AI generated some new stuff and help us kind of remove all the steps and time-consuming kind of processes, that's kind of a game changer, just because we can spend much more time on thinking rather than technically implementing stuff.
Final question from my side. Imagine that you're talking to the chief designer at one of the incumbent automotive manufacturers, and you would have to give him or her your top 3 recommendations to unlock the most value from AI/Gen AI. What would you recommend them to do over the next coming years?
I think like in general, I have like one thing to advise. So I think automotive companies are dead. So we have to convert automotive company to IT companies. So to kind of from like physical and digital software and hardware in one thing, and have to stop thinking about mechanical cars are mechanical devices. So it's a digital devices. Everything else comes from kind of from this point of view. If it's like digital device, and we can kind of think about digital device, cars as digital devices, laptop and iPhones, any digital device we have. So the experience of designing this thing has to be changed. So it's no more like separation between digital, physical, testing, and other stuff, but also the whole driving experience. We're still building, I still see kind of people selling and building cars where the pilot is not part of it, but basically, and the advertising in an empty city, like one car is driving. It's not like what's happening in real life. And yeah, so if we just change it and like we are building digital device where physical and digital is one experience, where we have to take all the load of the driving from the driver and stop thinking about driver as a driver. Is like user, and his job kind of inside the vehicle continues outside the vehicle, right? Kind of whenever they do, if they're driving to the office or kind of do the commercial job, it's still their job. They're doing their job, and the same as we think about laptop, right? Kind of it's never ends. So it's like we can't just put some boundaries, but usually they never do think about it, or maybe think about maybe just a little bit, like kind of an approach of the car. But what's going on in the air, kind of, then I am really far from the car, and how can keep doing what I am doing. So this is it. So one thing. So it's not mechanical device. It should be not connected to the racing anymore. Like everything about speed is wrong. It's like it's a selling point. I know it, but also like a lot of things is just dedicated to to power and speed and we don't need it. It's not a real experience. If we just put our efforts and time into understanding real experience, and build something the next level. Just like this is only my advice.
And thank you so much for taking the time for this today, Tim. Really appreciate your
Thank you much for
perspectives.
having me. It's really I can talk like all day about it, but also thank you so much for having me. I'm really enjoying this.